Yes. 2015, LaMarcus Aldridge signing with the Spurs after 9 seasons with the Blazers. 2016, Kevin Durant left the Thunder for the Warriors on Independence Day, and the fireworks followed as he won Finals MVP last month and the championship, his first. And yesterday, All-Star Gordon Hayward going from Utah to Boston, reuniting with former college coach Brad Stevens. What a day it was. Let's bring in the man who broke the story, NBA insider Chris Haynes. Chris, what can you tell us about Hayward's decision to sign with the Celtics here?
Look, I think what it boiled down to was his relationship with Coach Brad Stevens. Those guys really do share a genuine close bond, and it hasn't wavered at all during the course of his professional career. That, alongside the Eastern Conference, where he feels like he has a better path to reaching the NBA Finals. And then you look at the team. I think that he feels like the team is more equipped to be able to make a deep run. I know it was extremely difficult for him to reach that decision, to leave a place that he's been with for 7 years, a community that has embraced him. But I got an inkling, even in the morning. Like I remember I told you guys yesterday when I was on your show, that I feel like that I was told Boston felt pretty good. That was early in the morning yesterday, that they felt really good about their chance of getting them away. So I knew where he was leaning until I got word, afternoon that it was, that's who we had decided. So, but it was a whirlwind for him, man. It had to be a difficult decision for him.
It was interesting also reading what he wrote in the Players Tribune, saying that after each meeting he left thinking that was the best fit for him, right? So at the beginning of his long process of decision-making. This offseason, Chris, Danny Ainge, so he's added Hayward, Jason Tatum, another first-round pick in 2018. What's the buzz that you're hearing around the league about what the Celtics have done so far?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, I spoke to a couple teams, they applaud the Celtics for being able to land a guy. Because, look, everybody's talking about the West. Hey, man, who's gonna be able to contend with the Warriors? Can Houston really be a legitimate threat? And then they were saying in the East, well, it's just Cleveland. Now it's kind of changed a little bit. Now Boston is right there, and I think most teams are still believe that clear cut. When healthy, Cleveland, is the favorite, but they got a battle now. That it won't be a cakewalk now. So a lot of people I spoke to are applauding that move and the fact that it kind of helps the landscape of the East to where it's not as one team driven like it is in the West Coast. So, you got to give Danny Ainge credit. And one thing about what happened as well, look, there probably would have been a legitimate chance, probably, depending on what Kevin Pritchard in Indiana what was his motives. But, they did feel like if they did get a verbal from Gordon Hayward, that they will have a good shot of getting Paul George. But Kevin Pritchard, general manager of the Pacers, had other motives, and you wonder if he was even at all entertaining trading Paul George within the conference. So, but Boston, I definitely think they hit a home run.
You mentioned earlier that this was a whirlwind yesterday for Hayward. You broke the story. And maybe the best way to describe what you went through, too. Hayward's agent said no decision had been made after you broke the story, and you stood by your report. What was the last 24 hours like for you when this story seemed like, what's going on? Is he going? Is he staying? Is he going to Miami? What was it like for you?
So when I got word that he had made a decision to go to Boston, I was also told that the announcement was going to come around 30 to 45 minutes from then. So that's why that's another reason why I want to hurry up and get that out, because I felt announcement. I was told an announcement is coming. So when Mark Bartelstein, who I respect and admire, he's a good guy. When he starts saying those stuff and people taking his quotes and putting it out there, I felt like, obviously, this thing got ahead of them. This is something that they weren't expecting. They didn't. These are 3 classy organizations he's dealing with, first-class organizations he's dealing with, and you have to give them a heads up first. You have to let them know that the last thing you want to do is have these organizations finding out through the media. So I understand what he's doing in this situation, and obviously they wanted to make sure they got their story right for the Player Tribune to get that out, and they just weren't prepared for it. But I stood by my reporting, regardless of what anybody was saying, and I felt like there was no need to tweet, no need to say anything. I was going to let it stand by itself and was willing to wait until they got their story straight to put on the Tribune or whatever they were going to do with it. So that was my whole thing. So that's how I felt about the whole situation.
Well, Chris, we appreciate your reporting. And we should mention, by the way, he was on a flight out west while this was going down, too. Thank you very much. Chris is going to be back in the 9 o'clock hour with plenty more on Hayward and the Celtics. Thank you, Chris. You know, Hayward, if you haven't put 2 and 2 together.
It's missed it intentionally. Hayward with a rebound, 2 seconds. Hayward with 1 second. Half-court lead for 3. It's off the rim, and it's over in Indy. Duke is back atop college basketball's elite final score. Duke 61, Butler 59.
That would have been the greatest moment in college basketball history. You know, for that shot, that school to beat that school. Well, for the second time, Brad Stevens has helped recruit Gordon Hayward. First to Butler, now to Boston. ESPN's NBA reporter Chris Haynes got the 4th of July fireworks started with a tweet at 2:17 Eastern Time. 4.5 hours later, it became official with a Players Tribune tweet.
2,100 words of thanks to Utah for the last 7 years. Hayward posting an emotional, really heartfelt apology to Jazz fans who he credits for helping raise him while he was there in Salt Lake. But in the end, it was time to reunite with Stevens, and I think that moment right there may have had a little something to do with it. Part of his post reading this and that unfinished business we had together back in 2010 when I left Butler for the NBA. As far as I'm concerned, all these years later, we still have it, and that's to win a championship.
Gordon Hayward has increased his points per game every season he's played in the NBA. He's the only player to increase his scoring output in each of the last 6 NBA seasons. Put up 21.9 points per game last season. Utah plays kind of slowly. Celtics play much quicker under Brad Stevens. We could see that number go up again, more opportunities off the break. Now, his teammates took to Twitter to welcome him aboard. Isaiah Thomas, we saw him dance earlier after Chris Haynes' report. And then after it was official, let's get to it. Shamrocks, watch emoji, the whole thing. And then Al Horford chimed in. Aura Hess, the time is now. Welcome Gordon Hayward. The Celtics could be beasts in the East.
Dominoes, man. Otto Porter has been picked up, according to The Vertical. The Washington forward signing the Nets offer sheet today. Reportedly 4 years, $106 million max deal. The Wizards now have until 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday to match. Reportedly, that is their plan.
More move. Bill Gallinari headed to the Clippers in a 3-team sign and trade. League sources tell Adrian Wojnarowski he agreed to a 3-year, $65 million contract. First, J.J. Redick's in Philly. Hawks received Jamal Crawford, Diamond Stone, a 2018 first-round pick. Denver receives a second-round pick in 2019.
The street like we some warriors. My mama told me never bow your head. I feel glorious, got a chance to stop.
Let's get to it. Gordon Hayward to the Celtics, said to be 4 years, $128 million deal. The 27-year-old forward coming off career year in Utah, where he averaged 22 points and more than 5 rebounds and 3 assists per game. Hayward making his announcement today on the Players Tribune, saying, in part, this has been the toughest decision that I've ever had to make in my life. After 7 years in Utah, I have decided to join the Boston Celtics. I also feel like this city, Salt Lake City, helped raise me, and I feel like this city took me in as part of its own family. I just want to say thank you for that, and thank you for everything. And now I've decided to sign with the Boston Celtics. So the second straight year, a high-profile free agent making his announcement here on the 4th of July. Last year, of course, Kevin Durant. Today, Hayward to Boston. Our insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, joining me now. So we see Hayward reuniting now with Brad Stevens, his coach from Butler. How much of that was a major factor in this decision?
My sense in talking to people, it was not as big of a factor as I think everybody wants to believe. He had an elite coach in Utah, in Quinn Snyder, who helped them become an all-star, built the entire offense around him, and you saw his game evolve in lots of different ways. The biggest factors and what people have described to me, and it's been throughout this process, the chance to be an all-NBA player, to be an all-star, to have perhaps an easier path to the NBA Finals, that's all in the Eastern Conference now, and geography. Salt Lake City is a great NBA market. Boston is unique, the history, the tradition. It is hard to compete with New England and all the things that go with Celtic history. But the idea of him trading in Brad Stevens for Quinn Snyder, I don't believe it went that way.
Interesting. Now, everybody had been waiting, as far as the Celtics, for Danny Ainge to make some type of move. Here he goes with this. What could be next here for Boston?
Boston needs some size, some strength up front. You saw against Cleveland last year, and trying to get past the Cavaliers, they physically got beat up front. They have some expendable perimeter players here. A lot of executives tonight, trying to get a sense of who exactly Boston may be willing to move. Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, players like that who are going to have value on the market. Can they help Boston bring back some size up front?
What about Utah, of course, now needing to find a replacement there for Hayward? What's their plan?
I talked to Dennis Lindsay, their general manager, tonight, and he reminded everybody they've got a great young core there and that they're going to compete. They still see themselves as a playoff team. Rudy Gobert, at 24 years old, is going to be an All-NBA center. They brought in Ricky Rubio at the point. They're out in free agency. Rudy Gay is still available on the market. Utah has interest in him. Miami, San Antonio has expressed some interest in Rudy Gay. So that's a wing player that, is a short-term, can be a short-term gap. There's no replacing a Gordon Hayward in Utah. They drafted him. They developed him. That is not a place you're going to go out and get elite free agents, and that's why this loss ultimately is so devastating for the Jazz.
Of course, this is now the domino effect, right? Maybe Rudy Gay is the next domino to fall. Woj.
Jazz, Celtics, and Heat. And when it comes to overall money, Utah, of course, has the advantage because they can offer him an additional year worth more than $40 million. But Miami and Boston may give him a faster route to the conference finals and then hopefully eventually the NBA finals. For more, we welcome back NBA reporter Chris Haynes alongside NBA analyst Antonio Davis. And Chris, yesterday the Jazz met with Hayward. Of course, that's his team. They're the last one to get eyes in front of him. 3 teams courting him. What impact would this have on the Jazz if Hayward decides to go to either the Heat or the Celtics?
It would be brutal because you look at it from the standpoint of they brought in Ricky Rubio because behind the scenes Gordon Hayward requested that they acquire him. He wanted to play with a pass-first point guard. Then they re-signed one of his good friends, Joe Ingles. So they put themselves in position. So if Gordon Hayward is to bolt, that leaves the Utah Jazz with a pass-first point guard who can't create his own offense around a lot of other players on that roster who can't create their own offense. So it would set the Utah Jazz organization back tremendously. That would be a nightmare scenario.
So basically, they're all in, hoping Gordon Hayward resigns.
And you got to give them props because they're going all in. They're showing, hey, we're committed. But, boy, they sure leaving themselves in a vulnerable state.
Risk versus reward. All right, so the Celtics, Antonio, were not able to get either Jimmy Butler or Paul George through trades. If they don't get Gordon Hayward, what does it do for them?
Well, looking at Tatum, you would think nothing.
Okay.
This kid came out and played some great basketball. But, all this is about stacking those pieces. If your goal is to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers and you don't have a LeBron James, you need as many pieces around you as you can. And he was one of those pieces, a guy who can average 20 points a game, a guy who can go out there and create buckets and get his own buckets. He was that piece. And if it's not there, now it's just going to take them a little bit longer to figure out how to beat the Cavs.
All right, so again, as I mentioned, the Jazz can offer Hayward a 5-year contract compared to just the 4-year deal that the Celtics and Heat can offer, which could result in $44.5 million in additional income for Hayward if he stays in Salt Lake. You take a look at the numbers respectively. Chris, what have you heard about how overall money, could impact Hayward's decision?
Well, look, you have to remember, Boston fans, for the last 2 years, every time Gordon Hayward steps into the Garden, they've been praising and cheering him. It got to the point where Jay Crowder even tweeted out something saying, hey, man, like these are backstabbing fans or something along those lines. So he's going to be heralded there. He's in a bigger market. Remember, Utah, Salt Lake City, he doesn't get the exposure that he probably deserves. Right. He's a great player that we have in this league, man. And so I think he's going to make that money up in endorsements, just more visibility. It's going to be twofold. That won't be an issue at all.
Think about it this way. If he could get $10 million endorsements annually while he's on the Boston contract, that makes up for the money he would have gotten one extra year in Utah over the course of 4 years. That's $40 million. Yeah, so that could be a goal. Tony, what do you think?
There's just a lot of different scenarios you can look at. I always talk about those other factors. If wifey is happy, if the kids are happy, that's $10 million right there. So it really just all depends on all those other factors. And it shouldn't always be about the money. Right. Yes, it's about business and the situation, playing on the basketball floor. He's able to make more money in this market. There's ways you can make it up. It makes it tough for Utah, but I think for him, it's really a good scenario to be in.
That's the thing, like, it's hard for us to put a number on the value he places on quality of life. Right. That means his quality of life is better in Miami or in Boston than Utah. Right. Good for he and his family. He can handle his own money. Good stuff from you guys. By the way, a lot of people are like, why is Gordon Hayward getting all this money? Well, he averaged nearly 22 points a game last year, shooting 47% on the field, where everyone knew he was the dude. Those other teams, a little more talent, he could get better even every more. Year. Exactly. Yeah. These guys coming back on Coast to Coast a little bit later, but now we'll go over to Tony a little more.
Back on SportsCenter, Michael Eaves, Antonieta Collins with you. So Kevin Durant is going to be making $25 million this season. Sounds like a lot of money, but KD is actually leaving money on the table, and he seems to be A-OK with it. The 2017 NBA Finals MVP will be taking a $9.7 million pay cut, essentially giving the Warriors the ability to recruit and retain their championship team. For more, we welcome in our NBA reporter Chris Haynes. Chris, KD taking this pay cut, why was he okay with it? Why was he okay with doing this?
Wow. This is something that most people can't relate to, and I would say even most millionaires can't relate to. Even I think it came down to he feels really comfortable in his role with the team, in the organization's future plans, and I felt like this was setting the precedent because a lot of rival teams want to look at 2 years from now and look at Klay Thompson and Draymond hitting the open market, and they think that those guys are going to take off. Yeah. But if Kevin Durant is willing to take almost $10 million less, what do you think Draymond, Klay Thompson, what are they going to do when the time is up? So, and I think it also helps them to be able to keep retooling. And so, I mean, that's a generous gesture by him. Nobody expected him to take this significant of a pay cut.
Yeah, he will have the 5th highest salary next season among players to agree to a contract so far. So in addition to Durant, the Warriors have also agreed to re-sign Steph Curry, Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, and David West, committing more than $320 million to those 5 players. Chris, what are you hearing about the next priority for the Warriors?
Well, look, Nick Young.
Swaggy P.
Swaggy P. He is in play. Nick Young has the Golden State Warriors, from what I'm told, Golden State Warriors and New Orleans Pelicans knocking at his door. And I'm told he's torn between the two. But well, you know, it's a situation where in New Orleans, he has a potential to expand his role. They need a perimeter threat out there alongside DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. Golden State, you have a championship run, but the role will be kind of limited. So it's kind of a two-folded. But also, I'm hearing Jamal Crawford. He will possibly be involved in a 3-team trade that my guy Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting on, which would send Jamal to Atlanta. But I was told Jamal will seek an immediate buyout. He's not interested in being in any type of rebuilding situations. And once he gets that buyout, the Warriors are at the top of his list. The Warriors have the mid-level taxpayer exception of $5.2 million. That's what I'm hearing Jamal Crawford will be intrigued by, even though that would be a pay cut for him. But just the chance to be on the Warriors, that's just a salary that a lot of veterans are willing to take to be able to contend for a title.
Well, the Warriors still have work to do, but on the right track to keep that team together. For more on the Warriors, we send it over to Michael.
All right, Tony, Chris, good stuff. I got Tom Penn here with me, NBA front office insider, and he's also our salary cap guru through the touchscreen. So, again, we talked yesterday, Tom, about all the money that the Warriors are having to spend to keep this thing together. But now they got Kevin Durant in the fold. What does his signing do with that particular number do for Bob Myers in terms of what they're going to do with the rest of the roster?
Okay, I'm going to start with Durant, but then end with Durant.
Okay.
Because we just saw the optionality that he had. And here's what I thought he was going to take, the 31.8 that would be him staying in his own slot,
right,
and that would come in. But I'm going to show you what they've done, knowing what they were going to get from him. Here's what they did. First priority was Steph Curry, the full boat.
Right.
They're spending this money. They knew then they could go give Andre Iguodala more than they expected at 14.8. Sean Livingston was day one. They got him done at $8 million. So you're seeing it tick up.
Yep.
Now they're out of cap room. They never really used cap room. But if they want to keep their gang together, you come down here and they brought in David West at $1.5 million. They're still the same team. And they could re-sign Zaza in his own slot at 3.5. I'm going to assume that, okay?
Yep.
Now let's go to what this next move might be. And this next move might be, what did we say, either Crawford or Nick Young. So Nick Young could come for the $5.2 million exception. I've put him at 5.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put him in there. You know, another option could be under this scenario, although it seems like a lot has to happen. Jamal Crawford all of a sudden could maybe be that player
taking a big pay cut
that comes in at 5. Well, he'd get the buyout.
Right.
So one of those guys comes in. Now go back where we started to Durant. So now they're over the cap, but now it's a tax story with Durant. So back to his optionality. Had he come in at the full 31.8, that cost them $42.7 million in luxury tax.
Right.
Now look at when he took his haircut, and he comes out here and he brings it down to, say, the $25 million that they were saying he's going to start at. Now look at that difference. Watch the number and how much he saved them.
Wow.
He saves them that much money that then gave them the flexibility to do these other things and then add more veterans, because now the Warriors are in this very expensive territory where it costs you $3, $4 per player dollar that you add.
Right. Wow. That gave the team a lot of flexibility and saved the owners a bunch of money because he was willing to take less.
To do the rest of this.
Yes.
So it was like they knew he was going to do this. Knowing that gave them a chance to be as aggressive as they needed to be with everybody else. Good on Kevin Durant.
Tells you how much he values winning over necessarily personal income. Tom, always good stuff, man. Intrigued.
Wherever that ends up, that team will be getting a player coming off a career year. 21.9 points per game, marked the most by a Jazz player since the mailman, Karl Malone. Although Gordon was used on a career-high 28% of his plays right there, his usage rate, he was efficient, posting the most efficient season yet, 22.2 PER. And let's take a closer look, not just a highlight, a next-level highlight at Hayward's season and how efficient he was. The value on the floor, posting a plus 7.1 net efficiency, which would have ranked third in the NBA behind the Warriors and Spurs with Hayward on the floor for those Jazz. Utah's net efficiency dropped to plus 0.4, which would have ranked 11th in the NBA.
Gobert with the pick for Hayward. And hits.
He was a scoring machine on pick and rolls, averaging 5.6 points per game on those pick and rolls, almost a full point more than LeBron averaged this past season. Well done. How about the winning percentage and the impact?
Wide open Gobert, skip it out to Hayward. Look at the ball moving. Beautiful George Hill, bang. Great ball.
Great
shot.
basketball.
And when Hayward, Rudy Gobert, and George Hill all played, the Jazz posting a record of 28-12. Winning percentage of 700, also recorded a plus 6 points per game differential. When he's on the floor, good things happen for the Jazz. Jay, Lindsay?
Hi, Kev. Thank you much. We welcome in Chris Haynes and Antonio Davis now. Chris, I want to start with you. What can you tell us about where we stand in the Gordon Hayward sweepstakes?
Well, look, for the Utah in particular, they did everything they could to put themselves in position to bring back his services. It was well known behind the scenes that Gordon Hayward was pushing for the Jazz to acquire Ricky Rubio, a pass-first point guard. And then they also re-signed one of his good friends, Joe Ingles. So they're in position to say, hey, we've done everything. We've listened to your opinion. We've taken your critique. Now let's return the favor. Now, if Gordon Hayward were to bolt, and I'm told Boston feels really good about their chances of getting him, That leaves Utah with a pass-first point guard who really can't, create his own offense alongside other guys who really can't create their own offense.
Pass it to who?
So they put it all in. They be involved. I give them props. They put it all in and say, hey, please come back.
Yeah.
It's going to be a major fallout if he doesn't.
He can't say no to that, can he?
Yes, he can.
Is he?
Well, we talk about Miami over there. Come on, man.
You got the beaches. You got
the banners in Boston, the tradition. Man,
You're shaking your head. Why?
Well, I mean, there's just other factors. I found myself in a similar situation in 2001, going back to Chicago, where Tim Floyd was, who originally recruited me out of college to UTEP. And then I had Orlando, where I had my summer home, which I definitely wanted to go back there. Mm-hmm. And then Toronto was able to offer me more money to go back to Toronto. So there's just other factors. It's not always about winning and losing. Sometimes your wife has a different value set in this decision-making process. Mm-hmm. So there's so many other factors that you have to factor in besides the business aspect. And I chose to go back to Toronto, but I think if I had it to do all over again, I think I would have.
You chose the money.
Yeah, because it's not like today. There's a huge difference between 30 and 60 and 130 and 160. I mean, $100 million is $100 million. So we would just take that one off the plate once you get to that type of money. But then you have to start factoring in all the other things.
How much would playing for your legendary coach, Don Haskins, have weighed in? Because we know that Hayward would have an opportunity to play with Stevens, his college coach at Butler.
It's huge. I mean, it factors into, just your mindset and that comfortableness of knowing your coach and the way he's going to let you play and allow you to play. That friendship, I'm sure that they had. But there's a huge difference, like you said, between being in Miami and being in Boston. I think Miami has a little bit of allure because, they have that big guy in the middle like he had in Utah. He had the Gobert. He had guys who, this up-and-coming young team is intriguing to me in the East, because now you have an opportunity to be trending up and one day find yourself in a position to get in the East.
And that's the thing. That's the attractiveness about the East, is that Cleveland Cavaliers are one injury away from a key guy from allowing anybody into that path to see. We all think the Warriors in the finals. I'm talking about Toronto, Washington. If Phil just opens up, if he returns, which Utah hopes, it's
facing Jimmy Butler.
I forgot about Minnesota. It's
all of them guys.
It's stacked over there.
It sounds like we're writing off Utah in this conversation. Well, just because you look at the other opportunities.
I can't do that because just like AD took the money, the more money is in Utah. So you definitely have to weigh that. Yeah, it's definitely a factor.
Yes. But if Boston doesn't get him, people are going to be looking at Danny Ainge kind of strange, too.
That's true. But I'll tell you one thing Gordon Hayward's not doing. He ain't taking $10 million less.
Okay, Kevin Durant.
I'll tell you that.
Ain't doing
that's
that.
For sure.
You're still on that, man.
You're like sour on that, right?
That is $10 million. That's a team player.
Yeah. That's a drop in a bucket when you get up there, man.
That's what I'm saying.
10,000, $10 million.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's just. Come on, Haynes. You're better than that.
Some were different.
Chris Haynes and Antonio Davis back next hour on SportsCenter. Thank you, guys.
Antonio, I don't know what that means. So, Tom and I are not taking $10 million less. Our money man, Tom,
Me either right now.
I want to be Antonio just one time in free agency.
Just once.
Can I do that once?
Right? Hey, let's just say he goes for the money, and that's where Utah can make the biggest offer. And then you look at some of the moves that Utah has made, and these guys discussed it, to entice him to stay. What does this look like, this Jazz team, if Hayward stays?
Well, he's front and center, and let's show what's still there behind him. He's got one of the best defensive players in the league, and then a legit power forward in Favors. So you go to what their challenge was. Their challenge was how to replace Hill, because Hill was going to leave. So they bring in Rubio as a positional replacement, aggressively trading for him. And what you get in Rubio, Chris mentioned it, you get a major upgrade in assist production. 9.1 per game. The leader in all the Jazz was George Hill's only 4.2. So he's going to get him the ball. Then they come and they bring back, well, Hood's already here, but Joe Ingles, they re-sign quickly. Give him a big number, 11.6 per year. Important to Hayward. Now you think about what else is there around Gordon Hayward. They can bring in off the bench another closer in Joe Johnson, right? Joe takes the pressure off.
That's a bargain, Joe Johnson, too.
He finishes. You know, and Dante Exum is going to come along as a young player. He was a baby when they drafted him. So it's still all about Hayward and selling him on being in the center of all this. And remember the glory that he achieved this year, his ability to hit game-winning shots. A step-back three against Dallas, big game winner. He's in the middle of this team. He's established himself as the finisher, as the clutch player. This is what Boston wants right there in Boston. How about a home win? I'm playing this for him. I'm reminding him of this moment where he hits this huge shot against Cleveland. The place goes absolutely crazy. And LeBron, get out of here. Just walk off the court. It's over. That kind of stuff is what he has established with this team. And you remind him of all that. And then you remind him of this. For Antonio, a little differential. You get about $44 million more to stay. The home is where the heart is. Stay right here in Utah.
You would get a Supermax contract when it comes to the touch screen here.
Right? And is there such a thing here?
Here I'm establishing it, right? So the idea of the Western Conference just getting better and better each passing day.
Yeah.
This team made the playoffs a year ago, or I should say a season ago. What does this team look like with Gordon Hayward in the playoff scenario in the Western Conference?
Here's the problem. That's my ranking right now, based on what we know. And they're still fifth. Because I think the Thunder have jumped them with the acquisition of Paul George, and they're not getting past the Warriors. You still got to put the Spurs ahead of them. So they still sit right there at fifth. So if I'm negative recruiting against Gordon, it's like, look, you're not going to get there with what you got.
Yes.
Because everybody else in the arms race in the West. So I still think they're right there where they were. They finished fifth. They had 51 wins, and they won a playoff series. Next step is to take them further, but it's going to be hard in the West.
You mentioned negative recruiting. Maybe one of the pitches by the Celtics are, hey, you get to the East, you get a lot of young talent around you, you will be the man with IT, and you have a potential chance maybe getting into the Eastern Conference Finals. And maybe you pair up with this guy.
Yes.
And that is Jason Tatum. We saw him make his debut, the third pick overall by the Celtics in the draft, and there's the number one pick overall, Markelle Fultz. A lot of people thought he was going to be a Celtic, but the trade with the Sixers and then Tatum doing work inside. 6'8" frame out of Duke, and Danny Ainge is like, I like what I see. I like this is big picture. Maybe not 2018 World Championship banner. Maybe big picture down the road with these young guys surrounding Isaiah Thomas. Tatum doing work, and then Fultz as well. He was always in control here. First time we've seen him since February on the floor, and the outside shot, Kevin Durant taking notice.
Heck of a start for this kid. This is what you want. Inside, outside, attack the basket, feathery jumper. Durant likes it. I like it.
And then the defense, again, the point guard, 6'4", 195 pounds, and Joel liking what he sees. He's processing, and we're all trusting it. Shirley Temples for everyone. Fultz had 3 blocks, wingspan 7 feet. And then Tatum one-on-one. Beautiful shot. Silky smooth, less than 6 seconds to go.
Clutch takeover play. This is what you want to see out of your rookie.
Tatum on that final shot.
I just try to get back, to my sweet spot, mid-range, and, say a prayer and win it.
Fultz with the chance to answer now. Down one, the Sixers coaches said, attack the rim. He did. He beat his man. It's the help defense, led by Jaylen Brown, who had a monster night. The Celtics hold on to win 89-88. Great performance. Tatum with 21, Fultz with 17. Front office types like Danny Ainge, when they're watching a game like this, and we're seeing a lot of youngsters, 18, 19, 20 years old on the floor, what are they looking for specifically in a game like this?
Flashes of brilliance. You want to see what you drafted, and you want to have hope for the future. You got to prove it to your coaches, and you got to prove it to your organization. Summer League matters. We say it really doesn't, but I'm telling you, you sit there and sweat every possession. I've been there. We had it with LaMarcus Aldridge, with Greg Oden, with all our young rookies. I've had it multiple times where you're sitting in the stands in Las Vegas and your owner is watching every possession, your coach is watching every possession, and you need that guy to perform and show what he's going to be.
Yeah.
And if you don't see it, you panic.
That's amazing. It's
true.
Especially in July that you're evaluating that talent. And
Totally
of course,
matters.
I can tell you for the fan bases in Philadelphia and Boston, they were all smiles last night.
Good
from
start.
What they saw from their guys. Tom Penn with us this morning. Lindsay?
Thanks.
That's what I'm talking about. Give it up. Hey there, happy 4th of July. Thanks for checking in with us before heading to that holiday cookout with Antonietta Collins. I'm Michael East. Happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday, America. And Michael, do you know that a year ago today, Kevin Durant made the move to Golden State, and look at him now.
Doing okay.
A year later, he's doing what he can to keep the team together, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, but we're also going to talk about what happened in the Diamond. And first, our number 1 and number 3 NBA drafts in the pick in the NBA were in action, so we're going to get to that.
Yeah, a little summer league action, maybe a preview of what we'll see from these guys once the regular season starts. Markelle Fultz, of course, thought he was going to be a Celtic, end up going to the Sixers in that trade, and he's got some stuff with them, according to KD. Little hezzy pull up. Yeah, kid's got game. And then later, Fultz getting it done on defense. What? Oh, you thought he was only one-dimensional? Kadeem Allen found out otherwise. Fultz finished with 17 points and 3 blocks in the Summer League action. Tony.
As he continues to get better and have that experience, he'll make plays. Love the fact also that he's blocking shots. Listen, you don't get many guards blocking shots, but I love the fact that he's going to attempt and understand in order for this Philly team to win, with all that talent that they have, he still has to continue to add extra things, blocking shots, being a good defender, being unselfish.
All right, now to the 3rd pick of the draft. Jason Tatum making his summer league debut for the Celtics against the Sixers. Second quarter, Celtics up by 2. And save that for the highlight reel. That move, Tatum drives strong to the hoop, finishes with a powerful dunk. All right, now 10 seconds left in the game. Celtics down by 1. Tatum drives, pulls up, drills the jumper. Clutch shot by Tatum. Sixers would not score on the other end. He finished with 21 points, 7 rebounds. Antonio, what did you think?
Now you see, if you get Brown on one wing and Tatum on the other, you got 2 guys attacking, 2 guys who can defend, and this guy is showing you he can do multiple things. He can step out and shoot. He can actually post up in a lot of different smaller guys. I love his patience. He doesn't try to do stuff that he can't do. He knows where he wants to go, and for young players, that's very difficult. It's seeming like the game is slowing down for him.
All right, time for an NBA free agency update. Sources tell ESPN that the Clippers are trying to acquire Danilo Gallinari through a 3-team sign and trade deal, which would include sending Jamal Crawford to Atlanta and draft compensation to the Nuggets. Now, Gallinari became expendable in Denver when Paul Millsap agreed to a free agent deal with the Nuggets. And Crawford offered his thoughts on Twitter, a little subtweet here at @JCrossover. Sometimes all you can do is sit back and laugh. Of course, Crawford spent part of his NBA career in Atlanta with the Hawks. Gordon Hayward, he wrapped up his free agent recruiting tour with a 3.5-hour meeting with the Jazz yesterday. That's according to our Adrian Wojnarowski. Now, newly acquired Ricky Rubio actually flew in from Spain to attend the meeting. Hayward is now mulling over contract offers from Miami, Boston, and Utah, the latter of which can, of course, offer him 1 additional year. Now, Hayward has spent his entire career with the Jazz, and his name already sits near the top of the franchise record book in many categories, such as points, three-pointers, and free throws. And besides familiarity, the one decided advantage Utah has over Hayward's other suitors, total money. The Jazz can give him more than $172 million thanks to that extra year that would be a 5-year contract.
Michael, elsewhere, Kevin Durant agreed to a new contract with the Warriors, a 2-year deal worth approximately $53 million. The 2017 NBA Finals MVP will be leaving millions of dollars on the table, and as a result, giving the Warriors every resource possible to recruit and retain talent. And just to put KD's pay cut in perspective, among the players who agreed to new deals this offseason, Steph Curry, Kyle Lowry, Blake Griffin, and Paul Millsap will all have higher salaries than Durant next season. In fact, Durant will be making only $2 million more than J.J. Redick. Coming up, ESPN's Chris Haynes broke the story on Durant's deal. He's got the scoop on why Durant chose to take less money and what is next now on the priority list.